Welcome again to bradylibrary.tv, and this time in Scotland. I love Jura, it is. It's a bit special. And Willie Tait. Willie, thanks for being here.
No, it's great. It's great to be back in New York, and I brought the sunshine with me today as well.
Yeah,
so that's really good.
Well, look, it's Scotland in the spring. Obviously, it's almost draft weather there.
Yes.
You're screaming for water. I just hope you'll have enough in the distillery to distill.
It'll rain again. Don't worry about the water in Scotland. It'll come. It always does. It forgets to go off. That's a problem.
Now, what do we have here?
So this is, the Isle of Jura. For people who don't know about Isle of Jura, it's on the west coast of Scotland. It's a remote island on the west coast. Population about 186 people.
How many sheep?
Oh, countless. One for everybody. and between the distillery's been there since 1810, so we're just over 200 years old.
All right.
And what we've done recently since the early 60s is we've kind of changed the style of Isle of Jura, and we'll go through the Isle of Jura to say, but the 10 for me is very light and fragrant, and a nice Highland malt made on an island, if there's such a category. The 16 again, sweet toffee, honey, spicy notes to it, again of that Highland style. And then we have Superstition, which is a wonderful entrance into peat, and really taking Jura back to some of its roots. But we will taste that, and we'll go through the tasting with that one as well. And there's the big Prophecy, the brand new one, big heavy peat.
That everybody loves.
Non-chill filter, 46%. But you have to remember, they're all the same, they're all siblings from the same family. So that trait is going to be exactly like that, with that lightness, that delicate, and particularly coming from that big tall distillation. The home for these children of Jura, when they come off that distillation, is mostly put into either bourbon or American white oak, and a variety of both. Jura doesn't use a lot of sherry wood. It's a kind of spirit that, for me personally as a distiller, it doesn't need an awful lot. It doesn't need big olorosos. It doesn't need Methuselahs, it doesn't need them. Something nice. For me, American white oak gives structure and backbone to any spirit. It takes a little longer to do it. But for me, that structure comes and it stays with it. It's a real structure to it. And then the other half of it will go into first fill bourbons from Kentucky. And that gives, for me, that nice lightness, the coconut, the vanilla notes to it, and kind of the spicy notes as well to it. So that wood is important, but for me, it's American white oak and bourbon.
All right, so now, very, very little sherry, although probably you'll talk about some when we get to Prophecy.
Well, we'll put it into a little bit at the very end, just to kind of, for that bud, for the flower, right, just to kind of open up.
As a finish?
Just as a finish.
Okay.
It's not there not that long. It's just really to open up the bud just a wee bit quicker so that people can appreciate that.
I see.
Well, we do some boutique barrels at the moment, but most of them, again, are coming from bourbon. We done the Pabst collection, and some of them were done in some wine casks as well. But for me, my heart really is with this. To me, this is Jura, so and I don't really like playing around with it. I don't think Jura needs to be changed in any direction. It's a real honest spirit. It is what it is, and that's the way I like it, and I'm sure that's the way most of your consumers like it.
Yeah, they keep coming back for it.
Yes. It's proven that that's what works.
What's different about the distillate itself before it hits the wood?
Before it hits the wood, for me, that distillation as a distiller, of course, is one of the most important parts for me, because what you're doing is forming a character, a family, through the two distillations, and I like to call them the mother and the father. So that first distillation of the low wines, the father bringing the alcohol content from 78% alcohol to 27-30% alcohol. And that's called the low wines. It's not really a pure spirit in any shape or form. And then you put that into the mother, and like the mother of any good home, she's going to nurture that child and bring it to life. And for me, that, from the head, the heart, and the tail, and how you cut those heads and hearts and tails, And when you get to that heart, then that's the offspring of the two of them. And they're identical in shape, the two of them. Some distilleries, you know, the low wines will be different from the spirit stills. In Jura, they're identical to each other, so the two parents are the same.
All right.
Very tall, you know, some 24.5 feet tall, and a lantern shape, so lots of body going round them, lots of copper, and lots of big shape.
So quite a bit of reflux then.
Quite a bit of reflux, but not as oily or as some spirits can be. It's more of a kind of estery, fruity spirit that's coming from it, from that very tall still, and very distinctive, obviously, to Jura, because that's what makes everybody different. For me, that's what makes this family connection, is what makes us all very different.
But obviously, at distillation, even before that, for the mashing, for the fermentation, you're using a different kind of barley for the superstition and the
yes, of course. Well, the Highland style, it's obviously not peated at all, of that, you know, Highland Island style. It's not peaty for the 10, the 16, and we have a 21-year-old, and hopefully that will come to the States soon. And then for the superstition, it's about 45 parts per million, and really the same, the quantity that would go into the prophecy. Right. So we've moved up into this heavy peating variety through the malted barley.
It's nice to see those bottles here. It's nice to see you.
We're going to have a wee dram.
Oh, I think
so. I think we should. What we're going to do is we'll try the 16. For me, that's my favourite whiskey of all time, really. But people always say, if you had a dying breath, what would you want? I always say another breath. But if I can't have that, I'm going to have the Isle of Jura 16-year-old, another wee drink. For me, this is, you know, epitomises all of Jura, that softness. But it's got a sweetness, it's got a honey, it's got a spicy note to it as well. Remember the cask, bourbon, American white oak, not any other influences coming on. Nice, clean spirit coming from, remember those big two parents. And people always ask me, everywhere I go, they say to me, Willie, how do you drink Scotch whiskey? And that's very easy. You're either right-handed or you're left-handed, okay? And lift it slowly to your mouth. So what we would do is, first of all, have a nose. Remember, nosing is very particular to you. It's your nose and it's your palate. Don't let anybody say to you, oh, this is what you should be getting. If you don't get it, fine. Just try to figure it out for yourself. For me, it's got that, you know, that wonderful spicy kind of toffee note to it.
And refreshing too.
Absolutely. And that, to me, that refreshing part is that distillation. It stays with it all its life because of that big tall distillation. And then when I put it onto the palate, kind of hold it for a short time and drop it, and then find that wonderful glow at the end, that kind of honey, that, you know, sweetness and tenderness at the end of the palate. And it just sits there with it.
Both honey, but a bit of spiciness. And still refreshingly spicy.
It's a really nice glass to drink in it, because the glass is, is very light and open as well, and the spirit is very good in it.
It's got enough width to really open up.
Yes,
and then the top is not too narrow, so you don't have only the alcohol coming up. It's And
remember, you say to people, if they're doing it, you could add a little bit of water to it, open it up even more, and be more sensitive to the nose and to the palate. And if you're doing it at home, or maybe in a malt club or wherever, just put a little cover over the top, go walk away for a few minutes, come back and flip the lid off, and she'll tell you something else.
Nobody will have
I hope not. So it's just, that she's going to open herself up to you more and more as the time goes on, and she releases much more of herself to you. So if you get, some fruits, then you can then break that fruit down to dried or fresh fruits or whatever, or nuts or whatever you might get. So that's how you would do it. Cover it, gently open it up, have another nose. Go to there's what he was talking about.